that fits all those descriptions that has been putting fake Hollywood Walk of Fame Trump stars, because President Trump's Hollywood Walk of Fame star was recently smashed with a pickaxe.
Yep.
It was destroyed before. There's been other celebrities. George Lopez did something vile to it, or at least pretended to. So there is one guy that's sort of fighting back in a way. And, you know, it's just this laminated sheet. There's no real damage done there. And he's trying to make a political point.
But it's a witty point. You used a word, contrarian. And once upon a time, edgy pop culture figures used to like to be contrarian. Now they're plonking, po-faced people who just want to be po-faced and serious about all this stuff. We got to go, Carly. Thanks for that. We'll see you
so
on the TV imminently tomorrow. You're on Fox and Friends?
That's right. Not tomorrow. Monday.
Okay, Monday. Glenn Greenwald is a dog lover, and so's Tucker. And after the break, they'll be back to discuss Glenn's special dog rescue operation. Plus, creepy porn lawyer news. That's next.
Blackburn.
The creepy porn lawyer doesn't seem to spend much time lawyering, preferring to prance around on TV. Now he'll be even more distracted. This week, creepy porn lawyer appeared at the Iowa State Fair. Creepy porn lawyers at state fairs, that's what's wrong with the world right there. And said he's strongly considering a presidential run. Running for president is a great way to guarantee TV coverage, and if creepy porn lawyer doesn't get his TV fix, he's liable to shrivel up and die. If he does run, don't pay too much attention. Exposure to CPL can be very harmful to your health. The Intercept co-founder, Glenn Greenwald, has distinguished himself as a man on the left who hasn't forsaken principles like due process, freedom of speech and common sense in the name of opposing Donald Trump. But that's not all he does. He recently sat down with Tucker to discuss his dog rescue operation.
First of all, God bless you for doing this. Tell us what it is, what you're doing, and how our viewers can help.
Yeah, thanks, Tucker. So I've been rescuing dogs for a long time. My husband and I actually have 24 rescue dogs of our own at our house. And about 5 years ago or so, we've fostered hundreds of dogs over the years. We started working with the homeless population here in Brazil that lives on the streets with their pets, and discovered that the bond between homeless people and homeless dogs is even more kind of deep and profound because of their mutual deprivation than, say, the average suburban family with a dog. And we decided we wanted to tap into that, so we actually started a shelter about a year ago that's designed to rescue abandoned animals from the street, but at the same time employ homeless people who have demonstrated an affinity for animals because they live with them and care for them so well on the street, employ them and then kind of transition them into permanent employment and getting housing. So we are growing it slowly. We have about 150 dogs that we currently have at the shelter. Oh. We've placed about 3 dozen already for adoption, and we are employing about 5 homeless people. It's all crowdfunded by the public, and we hope that it'll inspire similar models around the world that take care of 2 different populations at the same time, abandoned animals and homeless people.
What is it called?
So it's called the Hope Shelter. It's actually an acronym that works well in Portuguese, not quite as well in English, but it's essentially something like homeless people and pets together. So it kind of works in English, not quite as well as in Portuguese. But it's really incredibly inspiring just to see when you give people who are homeless a purpose that they're already passionate about, and then match them with dogs who have nobody in the world and are suffering on the street from illness or injury. And then find homes for them using the people who work there. It's incredibly gratifying.
That's wonderful. Quickly, you've said you've got 24 dogs at home. That's kind of my dream. What's that like? That's a lot of dogs.
But we always said that 10 and then 12 and then 16 and then 20 was our limit. 24 is definitely our limit, so they all go to the shelter now. But it's incredibly amazing. Our kids love them, and it's just great to have them around.
I have so many more questions, but we're out of time. But good for you. That is the Lord's work. I'm totally convinced. Glenn Greenwald, thank you for that.
Thank you, Tucker. Really appreciate it.
Gotta love a great dog story. That's it for us tonight. Tucker's going to be back on Monday, and Judge Jeanine is standing by with Hannity right now. Have a terrific weekend. Toodle.
Welcome to this special edition of Hannity, Real Russia Collusion. I'm Jeanine Pirro, in tonight for Sean. The deep state is starting to fracture. This week, shocking new reports are revealing how one-time high-ranking DOJ official Bruce Ohr was actively coordinating with members of Hillary Clinton's opposition research team during the 2016 election. The Hill's John Solomon unearthed hundreds of emails, texts, and handwritten memos between Bruce Ohr and the ex-foreign spy and Dirty Dossier author Christopher Steele. The communications detail various meetings, the exchange of intelligence, and a coordinated effort between someone who was the 4th highest person at Obama's Justice Department and a former foreign agent working on behalf of the Clinton campaign at a consulting firm called Fusion GPS. Other documents show that Broussard was also in touch with the founder of Fusion GPS, Glenn Simpson. He even knew about Simpson's effort to leak the dirty dossier to the press prior to the election, writing, quote, "It was Glenn's Hail Mary attempt." This is major developing news, and we're only scratching the surface. But the mainstream media couldn't care less. They were too busy bashing President Trump for everything under the sun. Take a look.
It's a demagogue's toolkit that he uses and he uses it effectively.
This guy is certifiably insane.
He's the most prolific liar to ever be president.
He's also a misogynist.
A little coward. Disgusting, deranged, abusive.
The president's rather distant relationship with the truth.
That's a laughable proposition, but nothing new coming from this president.
President Trump's newest attempt to strip away our legitimacy and indeed our humanity. More and more, I think, hate movement is the proper term for what's going on.
Allowing Donald Trump rallies to go out live to viewers from beginning to end is delivering a poison to the bloodstream of the nation.
I feel appalled. I feel appalled as an American by the divisiveness, by the toxicity.
I like it. Joining us now is the author of The Russia Hoax, the illicit scheme to clear Hillary Clinton and frame Donald Trump. Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett. And Fox indicate that there's a connection between Broussard, Nellie Ohr, his wife, Fusion GPS, for whom she worked, Glenn Simpson, and Christopher Steele. Kind of explain that to the audience.
Well, this is highly significant, Judge Jeanine, because what it shows is a very contentious relationship between the way that they felt about Donald Trump, which we know Christopher Steele had said to Broussard. These were in the 302s, the FBI interviews with Broussard, where he said Christopher Steele emphatically in charge. We have a DOJ that has nobody above it. So unless the Inspector General releases the report this year, which I don't expect, I've actually spoken to people, he is intensely working on this Russia report, but it probably won't come out till next year.
Sarah, I don't care how intensely he's working on it. Look what happened with the Comey report.
Absolutely.
Nothing. Okay, so Greg, I'm going to ask you this. If we've got this guy, Christopher Steele, he's trying to get on the Mueller campaign. Sarah makes a great point, and the point is, but there's nobody looking at this anyway. So are we just engaging in an unnecessary effort?
No, this is how cover-ups work. The truth is slow to emerge. It takes a long time to do it. We know enough now that it was a cesspool of corruption. Right. Christopher Steele, who fabricated this dossier that drove the Russia hoax, the collusion narrative, this is a guy who admitted in court documents, I dug them up out of a British court proceeding, I put it in the book, he basically said that his document wasn't worth the paper it was written on.
Right.
And he said it's unverifiable, principally because it was based on anonymous sources and triple and quadruple hearsay. And the FBI knew this. They didn't care. They wanted so much to stop Donald Trump that they were willing to break the law, to do it, to abuse their power, to subvert the rule of law and undermine democracy.
Sarah, do we know where Christopher Steele is now? Is he in this country? Is he in the UK? Is he in Russia? Where is this guy?
He's in the UK. According to all the sources I've spoken with, he's in the UK, and he's not making himself very public because he's also being sued. And this is the reason why Senator Chuck Grassley with the Senate Judiciary Committee is adamant about getting his deposition that he gave in London here to the United States, and they're fighting for that now. Look, the problem, Judge Jeanine, is here. We have Christopher Steele, a foreign spy, involved in our election, collecting information from the Russians. Once again, if there was any collusion, the collusion was on their part with Russia. There is no evidence that President Trump or his campaign was involved in collusion with Russia. And this is the biggest problem.
Christopher Steele, did he lie or did he testify here at all?
No, he hasn't. Now, he has testified in Great Britain in a British proceeding that Sarah referred to.
Well, that's prior inconsistent statement or possibly the basis for a crime.
But Congress wants, Grassley in particular, wants to get his hands on the transcript of that testimony.
Is it public?
We've already got our hands on the interrogatory answers, which are under oath, answers to written questions. But the deposition, I bet, is even more damning of what these people did.
All right, guys, I want to move on for 1 second. CNN Spike Lee, talks about Donald Trump and bullhorn racism, NBC, Trump corruption. We heard it, space cowboys. Mercedes Rule is calling space cowboys the proposed space force. They're dumping on everything that Donald Trump is doing. How are the American people, or are they capable of even knowing what the good things are that this president is doing?
They're dumping on the American people, Judge Jeanine. They're not just dumping on the president of the United States. This rhetoric without any basis, it's constant attacks, constant rhetoric, constant going after, and it's reflective in their ratings. It's reflective in the ratings that CNN has. It's reflective in the ratings that MSNBC is now dealing with. The American people are sick and tired of it. They're sick and tired of the divisiveness. They're sick and tired of the lies, and they want something to be rectified, and particularly with what we were discussing.
Well, certainly that'll play out in the midterm elections. But, Greg, what about all this space cowboys making fun of, the next frontier?
Well, these are people who are criticizing something they're utterly ignorant about. We actually already have a space force run by the United States Air Force. The president's idea is to expand it. Currently, the biggest operation is out in El Segundo, California. I've been out there. 6,000 employees run this space defense system to protect our assets in space that are incredibly valuable, that if they're ever jeopardized, could actually shut down systems in the United States that we rely on daily. So these are ignorant people who are criticizing something they know nothing about.
Well, all right. Thank you both for joining me tonight. And now, with more reaction, is RNC Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel. Good evening, Ronna. It's good to have you here, and I don't know if you heard the last few minutes where we were talking about how the mainstream media and the media on the left is doing everything they can to criticize the president and what he's doing, continually calling him every name in the book, while all of this evidence comes out about the real collusion between the left, the FBI, the DOJ, Fusion GPS, Hillary Clinton, and the DNC.
Yeah, their playbook is the same as it was leading up to the 2016 election when they said he couldn't win. They were prognosticating that he had no chance to an electoral victory. And we in the heartland, I'm from Michigan, we saw something completely different. We saw we saw a candidate talking about higher wages and better trade and a country that was lifted up for all people. And that's why Donald Trump won. And again, the left-wing mainstream media continues to ignore the American people and what we're seeing because of this president. Unemployment at a record low, wages are up, our country is rising again. Good, keep ignoring the facts because the American people are smarter than that. We feel it, and we're going to show it in the midterms.
Well, there's no question. All the American people need to do is, most of them look at their paychecks, but also the consumer confidence and the GDP and all that. But in 2018, let's turn right to the midterms. How is it going to play out in the various parts of the country where, with Steele, Pennsylvania, where the president has just been visiting, and the other states that he intends to campaign in for candidates over the next 4 months?
Well, we've had 9 House special elections. We've won 8 of those. President Trump is our greatest asset in the campaign trail. He energizes our base. He brings an energy to our candidates, and we need that because he goes into Michigan and Ohio and other states, and he says, listen, we have to fight for what we've just gained. Our country is doing better. Our economy is roaring and jobs are coming back. And if we give it to the Democrats, they will double down on obstruct and resist and mire us down in investigations and stop this great comeback that is helping every single American. You see African American unemployment at the lowest level in history, Hispanic unemployment, women. These are good things for our country, and this is what we have to fight for. We've won 8 out of 9. The RNC's on the ground. We're in 28 states. We've trained 20,000 volunteers. We are ready to defy history in these midterms.
Ronna, as I listen to you, you are one fighter, too. I think the president really picked the right person for the job that you're in. But very quickly, Ronna, and we've met at speeches that around the country. I always get from people, what's going to happen to all this wrongdoing? How come there are no consequences? What do you say to people who get frustrated watching us talk about all of the collusion, the conspiracy, the Russia hoax?
Yeah, I do hear that a lot. One, they are not interested in the Mueller investigation at all. So let's put that aside. They know there's no collusion. You know, we have something in our Constitution called a right to a speedy trial. Boy, but we have investigations that can go on forever. And it's just ridiculous and it needs to end. But they do look at what happened with Hillary Clinton and the DNC funding this fake dossier. And now new revelations coming forward that Glenn Simpson was meeting with Bruce Orr and his wife worked for Fusion GPS. I mean, it's ongoing and we can't seem to get to the bottom of it. And there is a frustration, but I say stick with the president, put more Republicans in the majority. That's the only way we're going to get this done. We need a bigger majority in the Senate, and we need to send a message to the mainstream media that we're not listening to them. We're listening to the results that are happening on the ground every day that are benefiting the American people.
Ronna McDaniel, so good to have you on tonight. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
All right, and coming up on this special edition of Hannity, I'll tell you why the House Judiciary Committee chairman is preparing Steele dossier subpoenas. Tammy Bruce and DeRoy Murdoch will have more on that. And don't forget to get your hands on a copy of my new #1 New York Times best-selling book, Liars, Leakers, and Liberals. And Greg Jarrett is chuckling with me as we both sit here. New York Times #1 bestsellers.
Right.
Stay with us. Welcome back to this special edition of Hannity. House Judiciary Committee Chairman Bob Goodlatte is reportedly preparing to issue subpoenas to individuals connected to the infamous Steele dossier. Among those Chairman Goodlatte is seeking to question are former DOJ official Bruce Ohr, his wife Nellie Ohr, and Fusion GPS co-founder Glenn Simpson. And while Republicans tried to conduct government oversight and actually investigate these abuses of power, many on the left are calling for the Republican Party to be upended. Watch this.
That's what needs to happen to the party of Trump. It needs to burn to the ground.
Is a total and complete violation of their oaths of office to defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
You see the Republican Party now, sadly, a portion of its base, moving closer and closer to Russia.
Left to their own devices, they would just let Russia run wild throughout our democracy and throughout the democracies of our allies.
Should Congressman Nunes be removed from his chairmanship of the House Intelligence Committee?
Absolutely. He should have been removed a year ago, when it was very clear that he was not working in the interest of Congress.
If you look at Devin Nunes, you look at some members of the Freedom Caucus, they remind me of the people that we conservatives used to call useful idiots that would fly down to Nicaragua and tell Daniel Ortega in the middle of a hot element of the Cold War that the United States was doing terrible things and were apologizing for Ronald Reagan's anti-communist actions.
Joining me now is Fox News contributor Tammy Bruce and Fox News contributor, syndicated columnist DeRoy Murdoch. All right, guys, you know, as Goodlatte prepares these subpoenas, DeRoy, I mean, it's clear based upon the information that we've just gotten that we're talking about Bruce Ohr, his wife Nellie. Everybody's being paid by the same group fundamentally. You know, with Fusion GPS ends up getting funded by Hillary, the DNC, and it goes on and on and on. So Goodlatte issues these subpoenas. We're going to have hearings, and I'm curious to see how Bruce Ohr is going to appear, because for some reason I have a feeling he's like Peter Strzok, but I could be wrong.
I think we need to see how he is in public. I hope that they don't just have these meetings behind closed doors. The American public should see these people. We've heard their names for months now, and we need to find out what these people did and why, as members of the Department of Justice, they were behaving more or less like volunteers for the Hillary Clinton campaign.
Well, not only volunteers, but I mean, when you think about it, Ohr, Tammy, was wanted to back channel or launder information from Christopher Steele after the FBI let him go, you know, to the DOJ.
Yeah, look, here's what we're finding out, and this is what finally we're seeing it from the GOP, being focused, using subpoenas, acting on information they're getting. This is sort of relatively new, but what we're seeing really is finally the unfolding of the reality of an attempt to frame the president-elect, of an attempt then to continue that frame as that man took office, to nullify an American election. And while it is actually frightening to think about, so many people don't even want to go there, but you're looking at not many people at all. Peter Strzok, James Comey, this guy.
The upper echelon, the FBI, the DOJ. That's a problem.
And also, but for Bruce Ohr and his wife, this is what's interesting. People working in different departments with GPS, with Fusion GPS, and with the government. I would remind people, and Mary Jacoby's name has been on the list on occasion in the House committees. She is the wife of Glenn Simpson. She also worked at the law firm with Hillary Clinton, the Rose Law Firm. She is very deeply linked with the Clintons. So you have this, again, a very small group of people, very incestuous, all having the same framework. And these are people who were committed to the establishment, to what they figured was the next dynamic in line, because they had their futures and their retirements figured out. And Donald Trump ruined it, and that's what they wanted to stop.
DeRoy, I mean, when Tammy talks about, you know, this cabal, you know, or I call in my book the anti-Trump conspiracy,
Sure.
You know, they were committed to their own future, but their roots were so deep. These were not people kind of mid-level management. They were right at the top.
Very high up.
And
Absolutely.
so it tells me, I mean, my prosecutorial instincts tell me that they don't do this unless somebody in that Oval Office is agreeing to it. And I'm worried that they're worried, the left, that we're going to get to that.
It might get to that. I mean, I think at the very minimum, the Attorney General must have known about what was going on just below
Loretta?
her. It could be, yeah.
The one who met with Bill Clinton on the tarmac
exactly.
and made believe it didn't
what a strange
happen.
coincidence that was. But they talked about golf and grandchildren, so I'm sure that was okay.
For 30 minutes.
Yeah, but I think in addition to the subpoenas, what also would help, and President Trump can do his part in this, is to declassify as many of these documents that the congressional investigation. I don't know why. I think he may think that the public outcry, the outcry for the media left, will be too tremendous. But they're screaming anyway. So get the documents out. Let's see what's out there. And they're going to yell no matter what. So let's give them a reason to yell.
I think he's been advised that it is best to not interfere, to retreat as much as he can while you see this unfold, because the American people do want to be able to trust the end result. And we will be able to, if this is done legitimately, that the GOP does its job with its own investigations, and the president shouldn't have to do that. But ultimately, and a Michael Goodwin column says this in the New York Post, is that it is time, in fact, to declassify these documents.
Okay.
And he may, in fact,
whether
take
it's
that
time
step.
to or not, he's not doing it. But here's the question. To give it legitimacy, how is there any conclusion if there's no prosecution and no one's taken out in cuffs?
Well, I mean, we could get to that point if we've got, and frankly,
if we had an attorney general who had the authority to do it.
Sort of invisible, isn't he? We don't see him very much.
He's in a closet, hiding somewhere.
He's hidden somewhere, and he needs to be out here pushing this thing and moving along.
All right, let's talk about these guys. This guy Goodlatte, not Goodlatte, Schmidt, and I'll go to you, DeRoy. He talks about burning the Republican Party to the ground. This guy was a Republican strategist.
Yeah, he was John McCain's campaign manager.
Oh, well,
and I guess he's upset because John McCain didn't make it to the White House. But he has this amazing comment. For there to be new growth of a conservative movement of a right-center party, the one that I joined in 1988, it needs to be burned to the ground. I think that's amazing as a conservative, if in fact he is one. We have a president now with 88% support among the GOP. His black support's gone from 15% last year to 29. And why is that? It's because he is implementing a conservative agenda, and it's working. Tax cuts, deregulation, the Keystone Pipeline is being built. We're drilling, or about to drill for oil in Anwar. The U.S. Embassy is in Jerusalem, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. 4.1% economic growth, unemployment at 3.9%, black and Hispanic unemployment at record lows. So these things are working, and this is with the exception of free trade, where I differ with the president a bit. Other than that, this is a conservative agenda, and every conservative should be delighted that things are going that well.
His comments confirm the importance of what happened in 2016, that there was a lot of sound and fury about who was a conservative. It was theater. And those were individuals who, in fact, there was no real commitment to a conservative agenda. It was a commitment to the machine, to the monster that was being created and moving forward on both sides when it comes to the Democrats and the Republicans. Donald Trump represented a genuine shift into a genuine framework that embraced the conservative ideal, but then also represented the American people, not the machine. And that's why you hear Steve Schmidt now saying it has to be burned to the ground. He is late to the party. You don't need to burn. He's late. He is irrelevant. These are individuals who understand this, and they will not be coming back into power, and they must simply accept that and embrace the fact that the country is out of its coma and moving forward again.
You know, the interesting part of this is that you've got people saying that Republicans are putting Trump over country. What is that, O'Donnell? Not that what he says ever makes sense, but what do you think? I mean, I know where he's coming from, but how does that make sense?
It doesn't make any sense. I think Donald Trump is doing what's good for this country in terms of our economy, in terms of our overseas respect, in terms of projecting American force where necessary. ISIS has shrunk down to a few hundred acres, whereas they were a terrifying force a couple years ago. This is good for America. It's good for Donald Trump politically, but it's good for this country, and these two things can go hand in hand.
You know, I remember a couple of years ago, everybody was worried someone was going to show up with a butcher knife, yell Allahu Akbar, you'd be minus your head.
Absolutely.
Now nobody even thinks about it. 10 seconds.
Now, Lawrence O'Donnell apparently thinks that everyone else is as uninformed as his own audience. Everyone else knows in real life what the president has done. So he's speaking in a little tiny chamber, but we, in the meantime, are moving forward and support the president because we like this country being
Thank you to
on our
both
feet.
of you. Thank you, Tammy. Thank you, DeRoy. And up next, Judicial Watch is suing the Department of Justice. I'll have more on this new legal action from Tom Fitton himself, David Avella, and Doug Schoen as this special edition of Hannity continues. Welcome back to this special edition of Hannity. Columnist Myron York is reporting on newly discovered communications which show a relationship between Christopher Steele, Bruce Orr, and a Russian oligarch during the 2016 election. Watch this.
The dossier's author, Christopher Steele, that former British spy, was in touch with an official at the Justice Department, Bruce Orr, a lot earlier than we thought. They were exchanging emails in January of 2016. And what was interesting here is that Steele was writing to Bruce Orr at the Justice Department, and he was talking about a Russian oligarch, Oleg Deripaska. Mid-year 2016, Christopher Steele says to Orr, "We need to talk. I need to talk to you about some other business, but I specifically want to discuss with you informally and separately, and it concerns our favorite business tycoon." And now most people who have read this believe that's Donald Trump.
Oh, Trump, of course.
Because that's just a few days before Christopher Steele actually tells the FBI, gives them the first installment of his dossier, which is that famous Moscow hotel room scene.
Meanwhile, Judicial Watch is suing the Justice Department for communications between Bruce Orr, Nellie Orr, Christopher Steele, and Fusion GPS. Joining me now with more is Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton, GOPAC Chairman David Avella, and Fox News contributor, former Clinton pollster Doug Schoen. Okay, you know, we've got this link between Steele, Orr, and the Russia oligarch. But there seems that there's no way for Congress to get information in their oversight attempts. There's no way the Justice Department is giving information via Freedom of Information. The only way we're getting information now is, as usual, through Tom Fitton and Judicial Watch. All right, so now, Tom, you get all this information about the oligarch and Christopher Steele. What is that about?
Well, look, Christopher Steele, it looks like, was working with Fusion GPS even back then, which we have to remember was representing Putin interest in court here in the United States, trying to target Putin's critics. And the key Putin critic that led to the Magnitsky Act that was famously discussed at the Trump Tower meeting. So you had these Putin interests pushing obviously, it looks like the Justice Department trying to push it on the Trump campaign, this approach to removing the Magnitsky Act that was curtailing the rights of oligarchs in Russia in terms of a sanctions regime and impositions of sanctions. So the irony here is that Fusion GPS was working for the Clinton camp to target Trump, also working for the Putin camp to target the government generally in terms of getting this Magnitsky Act pulled away.
But then it suggests, David, that the Russians would be colluding with Christopher Steele to make Trump look bad.
The Democrats right now, Judge, are pushing the biggest blame shift or blame the victim strategy that we have ever seen in political history. Most Americans don't know who Steele or this Russian oligarch are. Yet a convincing number of them now realize there were people working for Hillary Clinton who would say or do anything to keep Donald Trump from being president. And it only underscores why Hillary Clinton had the lowest approval rating of any candidate in presidential history.
You know, Judicial Watch, Doug, we found out after Steele had been fired by the FBI, that Bruce Orr met with him to launder information to get back to the FBI. But it gets even better. Orr was trying to get Steele back to the FBI as an informant or a human confidential source, whatever they call him. But more importantly, he was trying to get him on the Mueller team. This cabal, they're all incestuous.
Yeah, I guess my position as somebody in the middle here is all of these documents that Tom Fitton and Judicial Watch are seeking, it strikes me in the interests of justice, not partisanship, ought to be released so we know what the facts are. That'll help us judge every aspect of this increasingly murky case.
You know, Tom, let me just ask you this, because what Doug says is so true. No one has questioned any of the information you've unearthed. You know, no one is saying it's not true, it's not this, it's not that. But every day we have to fight for everything. To what end are you getting this information? Obviously, to get the information out. We know that in the public square. But what do you want ultimately, Tom? You're working your butt off here.
Well, we think the corruption scandal of our time is this targeting of Trump using the FBI and DOJ in league with the Clinton camp and Russia interests to spy on him and try to destroy now his presidency. And I frankly think Congress is walking around or trying to turn the Clinton DNC dossier all through his investigation, and it's all based on corruption. And this is why Mueller needs to be confronted directly. I would like to see Congress bring him in and ask him questions about his use and misuse of these sources.
Wow. Okay. Does Congress have the authority to bring him in?
Of course they do. It's fear-based decision-making in Congress. They are protecting Mueller at the leadership level, and he needs to be held to account the way every other government bureaucrat in this town
I like
needs to.
the way you think, Tom Fitton. David, what's your response to that?
Democrats thought they were going to bring havoc to Republicans this year in the elections by pushing this shifting the blame, blaming the victim strategy. And the reality is it is one thing that is motivating base Republican voters to go to the polls to make sure that Republicans get a fair chance in this election.
Doug, you're the pollster. What's going to you're the Democratic pollster. What's going to happen?
I think at this point the Democrats have a clear advantage. And the reason is it's not so much that this investigation or these issues we've been talking about are impacting voters. I don't think they are. It's that there has been a sideshow for the Republicans that's taken emphasis off the economy, off the tax cuts, and off the benefits. And if I could offer my Republican friends some free advice, talk about the economy, talk about the progress. In 1982, the Republican slogan under Ronald Reagan was "Stay the course." The Republicans need something like that. Otherwise, the Democrats will take the House, which is where things stand now.
You know, David Avella, you are the head of GOPAC. I mean, you have your tentacles all across the country in terms of state legislators. What do you think of what Doug just said? The idea of stepping on our own good news story by going after this Russia collusion. Does he have a point?
He does have a point. We do need to be talking about the economy. But let's also keep in mind, and the Democrats keep talking about, oh, we're going to pick up, if we win 17 state legislative seats, we pick up 8 legislative chambers across the country. Judge, if Republicans pick up 11 seats, we pick up 6 more chambers, and we already have 67 of 99. We'd have 72 of 99. This battlefield is every bit as competitive for Republicans as it is for the Democrats. And the key will be which base turns out to vote.
Well, and I think Doug was really talking about you have the historic, the precedent advantage. Tom, where are you going next?
Oh, we're fighting the FBI over text messages for the corrupt FBI official Andrew McCabe. The FBI doesn't want to turn over one text message to us. They don't want to even look at them.
This blows my mind. The president appoints Christopher Wray. The first time he testified before Congress, Christopher Wray does the dance. Well, we'll hand you the stuff over. So now we have to not just ask for a FOIA, we have to sue in a lawsuit. All right, I think I had the last word. Anyway, guys, Tom Fitton, Doug Schoen, and David Avella, thanks for being with us tonight. All right. Now, Rudy Giuliani says Mueller's case is about to blow up. Coming up, I have Charlie Kirk and Dan Bongino to break this down. Plus, don't forget my book, Liars, Leakers, and Liberals, The Case Against the Anti-Trump Conspiracy, available wherever books are sold. Stay with us.
Robert Mueller is a greater threat to this republic and the Constitution than anything Vladimir Putin did during the campaign. And I'm no fan of Vladimir Putin. So what questions exactly does Mr. Mueller have? I'm talking to you, Mr. Mueller. Exactly what questions that you have where you seek to turn this country upside down and disenfranchise the over 60 million people who voted for this president of the United States? You are a plaything of the media. You are a plaything of the Democrats. You're a plaything of people within the Obama administration who sought from day one to take this president down.
The real story here is not that this case isn't going to fizzle. It's going to blow up on them. The real question is what we talked about before. There's a lot more to what they did that nobody knows about yet.
I know some of it.
A lot more to the obstruction of justice, to the collusion, to the fake dossier.
Oh, I know.
To trying to bring Steele back in after he was completely discredited.
And then feed it to Mueller.
Yeah. And Mueller is going to have a lot to answer for.
That was attorney for the president, Rudy Giuliani, and Mark Levin on this program, both with tough words for special counsel Robert Mueller. Joining me now with reaction, author of the upcoming book Spygate, The Attempted Sabotage of Donald J. Trump, former Secret Service agent and NRA TV contributor, our friend Dan Bongino, and Turning Point USA founder, our friend also Charlie Kirk. All right, Dan, you're sitting here. I'll ask you this. You know, is Mueller a greater threat than Putin to this country?
Well, he's a serious threat. He's based his entire operation, the investigation of Donald Trump, on a sham. I mean, Judge, let's just use the FBI's own words, right? The head of the FBI, talking about the bedrock of the case, the dossier, said it's salacious and unverified. The number two in the FBI said they'd have no case if it wasn't for the salacious and unverified dossier. The guy in charge of the division working the case says we verified it, but we were only in its infancy. And the lead investigator in the case, in a text to his girlfriend, Strzok, says there's no there there. They're investigating Trump for nothing.
All right. And you know what? And Strzok even thought about not going on Mueller's team because there was no there and he wouldn't come out with a great indictment. Mueller, greater threat than Putin, Charlie?
Well, look, it's tough to say. Mueller is doing so much damage to this country right now. And what I'm focused on, and I don't hear enough conversation about this, is who approved Mueller in the first place. It was Republicans in Congress that decided to appoint this special prosecutor with basic unlimited authority, unlimited power to go after the president. What have they turned up? Well, they found Paul Manafort not on Russian collusion, which was the original intent of the special prosecutor.